Well, hello there. This is Piers Redfield here, bringing you my 1000th video. And I thought I would sit down, write down my words. So this is a fully scripted video. I wanted to make sure it was precise and exactly what I wanted to do. So, for my 1000th video, I wanted to make something special. As most of you already know, Resident Evil 6 is my favorite Resident Evil game to date. This title is usually frowned upon, though, let's be real, by most of everyone. And I respect anyone's opinion, so if you disagree with anything that I'm saying, by all means, leave it in the comments, but please be respectful, because I'm being respectful back. And as I am breaking this down, I would break it down by category why Resident Evil 6 is my favorite. But, is it a perfect game? Oh, far from it. But let's go. So number 1, characters. This title held, in my personal opinion, the best roster of any Resident Evil game to date. You had the boulder punching Chris Redfield. Nothing else needs to be said there. You had the pretty boy himself, Mr. Leon Kennedy. You had little bitty baby girl, Miss Sherry Birkin. And of course, as always, you had the queen herself, the lovely Ada Wong. As far as the new ones, in my opinion, Helena should have been Claire Redfield, because Helena is boring and she was a waste of a slot, my opinion. Now, Jake, on the other hand, he was a good choice, but in my personal opinion, due to many factors, I think he could have lived up to the hype a little bit more. And I'll get on to that in a little bit later on the video. Now, Piers Nibbins was by far the best of the three. He held his own with our boulder punching hottie Chris Redfield. He never let Chris out of his sight and helped him find himself and finally understand what needed to be done about Carla, whom he thought was Ada Wong. That right there alone, in my personal opinion, hate him or not, Piers is the one that saved Chris. Hands down, period, no discussion needed there, because it hate him or not, that's what it is. Now, most folks will say he was overprotective and had a crush on Chris, making him gay or bi or whatever you want to call it. Me, myself, I could see the crush. It's not hidden at all. It's very well written in there. I mean, the undertones, I guess you say, or overtones of them together. Yes, it just screamed that. But the annoying protective part, I did not see that at all. But to each their own on that one. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I didn't see it. So number 2, the story. Now, I, as well as most, think the story was okay, but it could have been much better with a little tweaking because it felt very rushed. I'm also happy about Merc's maps, but they should have added DLC for each campaign, in my personal opinion, because every single one of them needed something extra, if you will, to make the story seem more relatable and just help the story altogether, because again, it felt rushed and missed opportunities here, folks. Missed opportunities and money in their pocket, I might add. So let's start with the first one, Miss Ada, her DLC. Ada's campaign started off just strange from the get-go. This whole Simmons connection was just there with no context of how it happened. So yes, to enlighten on that one, it just started. Got this thing with Simmons. Okay, how did it happen? They should have at best gave us at least a story cutscene to lay the groundwork that led up to the start. You know, before she did all of that, had a nice yummy cutscene. Basically, again, stating that, or again, they could have made DLC to expand on how that happened, or even make us understand why it did happen. Also, the ending. Let's talk about that. But the ending was just that. It ended. What was this job she mentioned? Now, I've thought about this long and hard for over the years, and I've told all my friends, in my opinion, it would have been fabulous if it was the BSAA sending her down to get Piers. Think about that for a second. A job. What just happened? Literally. Just think about that. So they could, excuse me, so when they did retrieve Piers, they could make him the BOW, living amongst them, and they could brainwash him so that way he could be a part of Resident Evil 9. Because at the end of 8, what happened? Chris was headed to HQ because BSA was dirty, making their own BOWs, aka possibility, a brainwashed Piers waiting for Chris to get there. Let that, think about that for a second. Now, Sherry's DLC. We have not seen Sherry since 2. Let's be real here. So why was she just there? They could, again, at best, lay the story cutscene or DLC for that matter, leading up to how she got to where she was. Because again, she just shows up, she's Secret Service. Woohoo, okay, how'd she get there? Last time we saw her, she was this little bitty baby girl that couldn't barely hold her, couldn't barely hold her own. Now all of a sudden she's Secret Service. How'd she get there? Come on, folks, come on. And finally, let's see. No, not finally. And then in Leon. Now, Leon's opening shows he and Helena in a room with the president. That's it. Okay. Now, there was a little bit of touch and go as far as, little cutscenes and stuff as to how that happened. But why not have got, again, an opening cinematic showing how they came to be in that room, or again, at least, some form of a full-fledged DLC. Because again, you're just there, all of a sudden, boop, he's in there with Helena, with the president. How'd they get there? Now, finally, Chris's DLC. This is the one out of all of them I believe they should have done. So I saved this one for last because of all of everything that was going on. This is the one that DLC was missed. It was a humongous missed opportunity. 6 months. 6 months. Piers looks for Chris. And what did we get? We get to see them starting off and both of them sitting at a bar, in a rundown bar. Okay. How'd they get there? Why was a full-fledged DLC not made to show us what happens in the 6 months and what Piers had to go through to get to Chris? Think about that for a second. That would have been a humongous full-fledged DLC. We're talking like 3 to 4, maybe even 5 hours of DLC just right there. And again, we've seen it online. I forgot what his name is, but it's called 6 months. There you go. 6 months. What happened? No one knows. So closing story was all over the place, but Capcom missed what I just said to make it right, which is a full-fledged DLC. Now, next one. The writing, folks. The writing. Now, this one was easy and kind of ties into the story. This was just rushed writing at its best, especially in Leon's campaign, the one that is known as the only one that resembles survival horror. We have to wait till almost 4 chapters to finally see what happens and see why Helena needed to show us what she needed to show us. Almost 4 chapters. Just very bad writing, in my opinion, folks. Just very bad writing. Now, I am sure that I am not the only one who loves the movement in Resident Evil 6. That's the next one, movement. I mean, just think about this. It took everything wrong with Resident Evil 5's movement and perfected it. I.e., you can now move and shoot. You can roll left and right on the ground. You can roll forward. You can bounce back. And my personal and all-time favorite, parry. The movement in 6 is second to none. You can hate on that game all you want, but you cannot hate on the movement system. It perfected, and you can run. Something you couldn't do. Well, you could trot in 5, but you couldn't run. This, along with the co-op, both in story and mercs, is the main reason I love Resident Evil 6. Did it have its flaws? A lot of them, actually, yes, it did. But, in my opinion, it's still to this day, gameplay-wise, polished and needs no remake. Do I want a remake? Of course I do. Of course, who doesn't want a remake? I mean, take it, but in my personal opinion, don't mess with the movement. That is what made the game what it is. Now, in closing. Now, that out of the way, my final gripe, why did Piers have to have an off-screen death? Yes, I saved this for very last, because this is what burns me up. You had gold in a bottle with him. He could have been in future titles. And what did you do? You wrote him off. Just boop. Wrote him off. There you go. You had literally mini Chris, baby boy Chris, right there for when Chris got older and you had to write him out or maybe gave him a support role, bring in Piers. There you go. Another, for lack of a better word, Chris Redfield. Yes, and again, no one saw him die, so therefore, or pass rather. So therefore, in my personal opinion, I think that what they were trying to do is trying to make something dramatic, but not take him out of the game at all together and gave him an off-screen quote-unquote death. But in my personal opinion, folks, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. In my personal opinion, out of the 3 newbies, Helena should have been toast. She was a boring character. She was poorly written. Her campaign with Leon was, in my personal opinion, by far the worst out of all of them. Because yet again, you had to wait almost 4 chapters to figure out what the flip they were doing. And by that time, you're already invested in it. So you had to finish it up. That's just no. She is the one that should have bit the dust or had an off-screen death, because she got away literally with murder in a way. I mean, nothing happened to her. It's like, oh, because of this and because of that. No, and Piers literally saved the world. And what do you do to him? You write him off. Now, that, folks, is why I love Resident Evil 6. The story is bad. The writing is worse. But in my personal opinion, with the characters and the movement and just how much fun it is, that is why Resident Evil 6 is my favorite. And yes, I'm a little biased when it comes to Piers Niven. In my personal opinion, probably one of the best characters newer characters that Capcom ever brought out. And it made Resident Evil 6 my favorite game. One of the reasons, anyway. If you don't agree with me, fine. I respect it. I look forward to it. I like another form of an opinion, so leave it in the comments. Tell me why you don't agree with me, but please leave it respectful, because I'm being respectful back. And I do want to thank each and every one of you for watching my 1000th video. It's something I've never done before. I've never done anything like this where I actually have a audio dialogue and make a video over it. So again, bear with me. If it's not perfect, it's my first attempt at it. If you do like my video, hit that like button, because it helps the series. It helps me, rather, and it helps the video, and it helps my channel. And if you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe, folks, subscribe. For this video, my past content, my current content, and my future content. And with that, folks, this is Piers Redfield, and I am out. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.